appreciate you keeping it real, Laura, but actually we do not all end up with hemorrhoids after we have our babies. Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Dr. Nicole. I'm a pelvic floor physical therapist, which is a really long way to say I work with vaginas on a regular basis, and I'm also a mom of 2 little boys myself, and I thought, how fun would it be to look at Laura Cleary's postpartum first 24 hours and kind of sift through what's obviously exaggerated to be hilarious and what's really true about postpartum.
So the hospital wants us here for at least 24 hours. The birth couldn't have been more different than with Alfie, but the postpartum actually could not have been more different, right? And I kept hearing this over and over. If you do an unmedicated birth, that's the excruciating bit, but then postpartum is easy because you've just been through the most pain you're ever going to go through in your life. So like it's not a walk in the park. Like my vag still hurts.
I totally appreciate, I know some people get really up in arms about like vag and cooch and kitty and like all these different words for like your vagina, which there's that whole debate too, because your vagina is actually inside and you actually can't see vaginas. What we're mostly talking about is vulvas when we say vaginas, but that is another topic.
Okay, I still did tear. I had, which I'm kind of bummed about, but it is what it is.
I can totally understand that she's disappointed about tearing. I mean, who wants to have their vagina / your perineum, your lady parts tear? I don't think any of us want that. Actually, 85% of women will experiencing some kind of trauma to their perineum, which is the skin between your vagina hole and your anus or butthole, whether that's an episiotomy, which is about 11 or 12% in the United States, and the rest will just have tearing. And there are different degrees of tearing, from a 1st degree tear, which is just a little bit, to a 4th degree tear, which is all the way from like one opening in your vagina to the opening in your anus. So a lot of variation there. Now she is on her 2nd child, which we actually know that you have a decreased risk of tearing on your like 2nd, 3rd, or whatever, however many babies you have. And you also have a decreased risk of tearing if there is no vacuum or forceps used, which she hasn't mentioned yet. There's one more thing. I lied, there's 2. If you have a longer 2nd stage of birth, so your pushing phase is long, that increases your risk of tearing, and then a bigger baby, which if you followed her birth story, you know that she had an 8-pound baby, and that was even at 37 weeks, so that's a pretty decent sized baby.
She shot right out of me.
Shot right out of me? Yikes.
Well, she's super healthy. She's 8 pounds, 1 ounce, 21 inches at 37 weeks. So we make big babies.
I feel you, girl. My 2nd birth was a 9-pound, 3-ounce baby. And I was like, what? I had a 6-pound, 15-ounce baby, my first one. Everyone kept telling me it's going to be a big baby. I was like, you guys, no, it's not. Like, we don't make big babies. We're small people. Oh no, we make big babies too.
How to pee after pushing out an 8-pound, 1 ounce baby out of her cooch. You don't just pee, okay? First step, you take this fill it. Oh man. You take this bottle and spray, you just spray it all up and down the areas.
Pro tip, when you are filling that little water spray bottle, put warm water. Hot water does not feel good. Cold water definitely does not feel good either. Warm water is where you want it. And even though you're like, oh, I do not want to wait for the water to get warm, it's worth it. Do it.
Then you're going to have hemorrhoids. You're not going to have hemorrhoids. You're definitely 100% going to have hemorrhoids. Pushing, okay?
Okay, I love that she's bringing awareness and normalizing the fact that hemorrhoids definitely can happen during pregnancy and after pregnancy. However, she does say that 100% of women get hemorrhoids, and no, this is actually not true. I was so curious about this. I was like, I gotta look it up, because how many actually end up with hemorrhoids? And what I found was, 43%, only 43%. And I shouldn't say only, because like if you are in that 43%, like no fun at all. But you shouldn't be scared that you're for sure gonna get hemorrhoids after you give birth, because only 43% of women do. Side note, yes, pushing is part of hemorrhoids, but there's also lots of things that you can learn. If you take some birth classes, they will teach you about like an open glottis position, where you are like, you're pushing, but you have an open mouth and like an open throat, and you're definitely moaning during the birth. And this definitely, I just said definitely a lot. You are going to open up your pelvic floor muscles, which hopefully you've practiced with a pelvic floor physical therapist like myself before labor, so that when you get into that position, you can do a lot of your pushing with that open throat position. Now, people that say you breathe out your baby, personally, I have never had that experience. Maybe that is something that you could do if you practiced enough, but typically at the very end, there are some like a good push to get that head through, but you don't need to be pushing that way for a half hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, the whole time of pushing. Also, there is a difference in spontaneous pushing versus directed pushing. For spontaneous pushing, every time you feel the urge to push, you're pushing with that urge, which usually ends up to be about 6 to 7 seconds worth of pushing. If you're doing coached pushing, they're saying like push now, and it may not be when your body's actually contracting, and typically they coach you to push for a full 10 seconds, which is actually longer than the 6 or 7 seconds that you would naturally be doing. So these can all be factors in the amount of pushing that you do, and could definitely contribute to the amount of pelvic floor damage or hemorrhoids that you experience in the postpartum.
And then you take this pink itch and burn thing, and it numbs your areas. It numbs the whisker biscuit.
The whisker biscuit? Who calls it a whisker biscuit? No, that's a new one.
Postpartum, baby. It's a glamorous world.
Can I just say that I love the fact that she posted a video of what her stomach actually looks like postpartum in those swanky postpartum underwear, because a lot of times the pictures that we're seeing online, which just completely drives me absolutely bonkers, is the people that do go home in their pre-pregnancy jeans and they look amazing. Like, yeah, that does happen, but for most of us, we still look pregnant when we leave the hospital, and it's so discouraging to only see the stories where people look exactly like they did when they went into the hospital, which is actually quite amazing that they can do that, because your uterus hasn't even shrunk down yet. And so even if you just have a big uterus inside you, you're probably not going to look like you did before you got pregnant. So I don't know how those people do that magic trick. It definitely didn't happen to me. And so kudos to Laura for just being completely real with us on that one. Also, can I just say, I literally thought her name was Laura Celery for like the longest time. I was so embarrassed to tell anyone this, and I was hanging out with my friends and we were talking about, oh my gosh, have you guys seen Laura Cleary's birth story? It's up online, and 3 out of the 4 of us were like, yeah, we totally thought her name was Laura Celery, so whoops.
That was funny when you were carrying the placenta through the...
I still can't believe we're encapsulating the placenta.
Neither can I.
I'm literally getting my placenta encapsulated. So we put it in a box after, and someone came to pick it up and take it to the lab.
I've never actually had my placenta encapsulated, so I don't actually know how they take it home, but I know a lot of doulas that do this, and I have to wonder if they really are just like running through the halls of the hospital with this box, with a cardboard box. I mean, is it a special kind of box? I don't know. This raises a lot of questions for me.
So what are you going to do with it? You're going to eat it?
Well, you take it like a pill. They encapsulate it. You take it like a vitamin.
There is a pretty big movement towards consuming your placenta after you give birth, and basically you get someone who is certified, trained, hopefully not just a random person on the streets, and they will cook down or go through this whole process to basically get your placenta so that it can fit in capsules. And a lot of people will take these after they have their baby. They are thought to increase the amount of iron, because there's a lot of iron in a placenta, and then hopefully that helps with postpartum depression, because low iron has been associated with postpartum depression. I wanted to make sure I had the facts right though, so I went digging through the research. There was a study that was done a few years ago. I couldn't find anything more recent than that. I'll link it in the description below, but it basically said that they did a study and compared like people with a placebo effect and then the actual pill, a placebo, I shouldn't have used that word. Placebo means like a fake pill that they would have definitely thought was their placenta, but it actually wasn't their placenta. And they compared their iron and their hemoglobin throughout the postpartum process, and they actually didn't find a significant difference in the amount of iron from the people that consumed their placenta or ate it, and the people that didn't. So that's what they hoped that the placenta was doing, but there just isn't really the evidence out there right now. And also there have been some women that actually reported they had more anxiety and depression after birth when they were taking their placenta capsules, if you will. So there's definitely like mixed reviews on that. Some people say it's awesome, it gives you energy, it helps with healing. Other people say it messed with their hormones because you are probably introducing estrogen and progesterone that are part of your placenta that you needed when you were pregnant, but then after you're pregnant you need different kinds of hormones to make breast milk, to shrink your uterus, to do all those kind of things. And so you might be actually messing with the natural hormone balances that are going on in your body. I don't know, I think the jury's still out on this one, but there are definitely a lot of people that are consuming or eating their placenta through capsules. If you are someone that loves to be a part of a community where we can talk honestly and openly about things that are usually not talked about very much, please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you thought this video was interesting in any way, I would love to have you give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, just maybe quietly leave. I don't know, thumbs up make me feel bad. Anyways, whatever you decide to do, if you love to talk about things that are TMI, I highly suggest you talk about this video over here where I go into great detail about things that happen in our vagina that nobody else is talking about. It's been a pleasure hanging out with all of you today. I will see you all in the next video.